A black waitress saved a millionaire from an accident and without knowing who he was. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from today. The smell of fresh coffee and toast filled the air in a busy restaurant in downtown Boston. Elena Navarro wore her white apron and looked outside. A soft rain was falling, making the windows look shiny and silver. Elena was 28 years old and had worked at the Sunshine Diner for 5 years. She worked there to help pay for her nursing school. She was used to the busy days and loud noise of the restaurant. "Table 7 needs help," called Rosa, the shift manager. Rosa was a kind woman with gray hair and a warm smile. Elena nodded, picked up her order pad, and walked to table 7. The diner was extra full that Monday morning. Business people rushed in, and locals came to stay dry from the wet October weather. Voices mixed with the sounds of forks, knives, and cups. Elena knew these sounds very well. At table 7, a man in a dark suit was typing fast on his phone. His shoulders were tight, and his face looked serious. Elena saw that even though he wore a nice suit, his brown eyes looked sad. "Good morning. Welcome to the Sunshine Diner. May I take your order?" Elena asked with a polite smile. The man looked up. "Black coffee and a waffle with blueberries, please," he said in a quiet voice. Elena noticed his hands were shaking a little as he put down his phone. "Would you like anything else?" she asked kindly. "No, thank you," he said and looked back at his phone. He didn't want to talk more. Elena walked away, but she kept thinking about him. He was different from the other people who came to the diner. He looked like he was carrying a heavy, invisible weight. The bell above the door rang. A group of noisy college students came in, laughing and bringing in cold air. Elena picked up the man's food and coffee. She walked through the tables with the skill she had learned over the years. "Here's your coffee and waffle, sir," she said. She placed the food on the table and then noticed something. The man's eyes were wet. He quickly wiped away the tears, but Elena had already seen them. "Thanks," he said softly, still not looking at her. Elena waited a moment. Then she did something she usually didn't do. "You know," she said gently, "sometimes talking to someone helps more than coffee." The man looked at her, surprised. A small smile appeared on his lips. "I don't think you have time to hear a stranger's problems," he said. "I have a break in 15 minutes, Elena replied, surprised at herself. "And after 5 years of serving coffee, I've learned that no one is a stranger after the first cup." He looked at her, then at his coffee. "Damien," he said finally. "Damien Calloway." "Elena Navarro," she said, smiling. His name matched his neat and quiet look. During her break, Elena sat with Damien. He told her he was the CEO of a tech company. He also told her something very sad. His wife had died of cancer a year ago. That day was the first anniversary of her passing. He had come to the diner just to get away from his office and sad memories. Vivian loved rainy days, he said, playing with his empty coffee cup. She said they were perfect for starting over. Elena listened quietly and kindly. She didn't say much, but her eyes showed that she cared. Damien hadn't had someone listen like that in a long time. Talking to Elena made him feel better. For the first time in months, he shared his pain without feeling judged. Elena went back to work after her break, but her mind kept thinking about Damien. He looked strong on the outside but was hurting inside. Her heart felt touched. When Damien got up to leave, he gave her a big tip and his business card. "Thank you," he said. His voice showed he really meant it. Elena put the card in her apron pocket. She felt like something inside her had changed that morning. The rest of the day was normal, but she couldn't stop thinking about the man in the dark suit with the sad eyes. He had found a little bit of peace at her table. That evening, while closing up with Rosa, Elena thought about how small, kind moments can make a normal day special. The business card in her pocket felt like a promise. Maybe she would see Damien again. The rain had stopped and the city streets shone under the lights. Elena walked home, thinking about how strange and lovely life could be. Just one cup of coffee and a little talk could change everything. The next week went on as usual. Elena worked at the diner, and the business cards stayed in her drawer. She would see it sometimes and think about Damien and his story, but she stayed busy and didn't think too much about it. Then, on a busy Thursday morning, something happened. Elena was walking to work. Autumn leaves were flying around, and the cold wind made people pull their coats tighter. She looked at her watch. It was 6:45 a.m. She had just enough time to reach the diner before 7. Suddenly, she heard tires screeching on the road. She turned and saw a car sliding on the wet street. It was heading straight for the sidewalk, and right there, walking across the road, was Damien Calloway. He didn't see the car coming. Elena's heart jumped. She dropped her bag and ran. "Damien," she shouted. Everything felt slow. Her nurse training kicked in. She pushed Damien out of the way just in time. They fell onto the sidewalk together. The car missed them by inches and crashed into a lamppost. "Are you okay?" Elena asked, breathing hard. Her heart was racing. She checked Damien quickly to make sure he wasn't hurt. Damien blinked. "Elena?" he asked, shocked. "The waitress from the Sunshine Diner?" "Yes," she smiled, helping him sit up. "You were deep in thought and didn't see the car." People started gathering around. Others helped the driver, who didn't seem badly hurt. Sirens sounded nearby. "You saved my life," Damien said softly, his eyes full of feelings. Elena didn't understand. She blushed. "Anyone would have done the same," she said, now feeling sore. Her knee hurt where it had scraped the ground, and her uniform was torn. Paramedics arrived. Elena made sure Damien got checked, even though he said he was fine. While they worked, she called Rosa and told her what had happened. Rosa told her to take the day off. "Do you need a hospital?" Damien asked, seeing the blood on her knee. "It's not serious," she said, "just a scrape." "Please, let me help," Damien said. "My driver can take us to my private clinic. It's the least I can do." Elena wasn't sure, but his eyes looked so caring. "Okay," she said finally, "but only because Rosa gave me the day off." In the car, Elena looked at Damien. He seemed different, not so stiff, more like a real person. The accident had shaken something loose. "You know," Damien said, breaking the silence, "Vivian always said, angels come when you least expect them." His voice shook. "I think she was right." "I'm not an angel," Elena said softly, "just a waitress with quick reflexes." Damien smiled, really smiled for the first time. "A very humble waitress," he said. At the clinic, the doctor cleaned and bandaged Elena's knee. It wasn't serious. Damien stayed close, making phone calls but never going far from her. When it was over, he took her home. "It's the least I can do," he repeated. Elena didn't argue this time. Outside her small apartment, she felt a little sad to say goodbye. "Thank you again," Damien said. "You didn't just save my life. You helped me believe that maybe good surprises still happen." Elena suddenly leaned forward and kissed his cheek. "Take care, Damien Calloway," she said, and got out quickly. As she walked upstairs, she touched her lips. She didn't know what the kiss meant or if she'd ever see him again, but she felt something had changed. The business card in her drawer now felt different, like it carried a secret promise. Elena smiled. Sometimes the most amazing things happen on the most normal days, between coffee cups and close calls. A week later, Elena was back at work at the diner. She still thought about Damien and the morning she saved him. The card was still in her drawer. One busy morning, Rosa called her over. "Elena, someone's asking for you," Rosa said with a smile. Elena turned, and her heart skipped. Damien Calloway was standing at the door in a navy blue suit. He looked more relaxed, maybe even a little shy. "Damien," Elena said, blushing, "I didn't think you'd come back." "I tried not to," he said with a small smile, "but I owe more than a simple thank you to the person who saved my life." Rosa saw their smiles and stepped in. "Elena, why don't you take your break now?" Damien led Elena to a table. He ordered coffee for both of them. "How's your knee?" Damien asked kindly. "It's much better," Elena replied, gently touching where the bruise had been. There's just a little scar now. Alina, Damien said in a serious voice, I've been thinking all week about how I can thank you. You didn't just save my life. You helped me see that I was living like a ghost since Vivian left. Alina felt her heart beat faster. His eyes looked straight into hers. Damien, you don't owe me anything, she said softly. I do, he said. You made me believe there's life after losing someone. And that kiss, it was the first time I felt something other than sadness since Vivian died. The room was quiet. Elena felt her heart racing. There's a charity art show this weekend, Damien continued. Vivian worked with art. This show is for her. Will you come with me? Elena was surprised. I don't know anything about art, she said. Damien smiled. Vivian always said you don't need to understand art, you just need to feel it. Also, he added with a smile, I might need saving again. Elena laughed. In that case, I guess I should come. Someone needs to keep you safe. They exchanged phone numbers. Damien promised to send the details. As he left, Alina noticed something had changed in him. He looked lighter, happier. Alina, he called from the door, thank you for making me feel alive again. The rest of the day went by quickly. Elena worked at the diner, but her thoughts kept going back to Damien and his invitation. Her manager, Rosa, noticed. He seems like a good man, Rosa said as they closed the restaurant. And you deserve something special in your life. Elena nodded, putting napkins away. He's still sad about Vivian, and I'm just a waitress. Rosa took her hands. You're not just a waitress. You're also a student training to be a nurse. You work hard, and you were brave enough to save a stranger. Don't think less of yourself. That night, Elena sat in her small apartment looking up things about art. She also found pictures and stories about Vivian Calloway. Vivian had a warm smile and kind eyes. She helped bring art to children who didn't have much. Elena felt a mix of feelings, respect for Vivian and a strange connection to her. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Damien with the details about the art show. Elena read it over and over. 2 weeks ago, her life had been very different. Now everything had changed. Maybe angels show up when we don't expect them, she whispered, thinking about what Damien had said about Vivian. Maybe Vivian helped bring them together. She closed her laptop and looked out the window. The lights of Boston twinkled in the night. Elena felt like she was about to start something new, something important. The day of the art show came faster than Elena had expected. She stood in front of her small closet, unsure what to wear. After trying different outfits, she picked a simple black dress she had worn to a graduation. It looked nice, but wasn't too fancy. As she put on a little makeup, she thought about Vivian again. Vivian had been a smart and kind woman who helped many people. Elena looked at her reflection and hoped she would be good enough. At 7 p.m., the doorbell rang. Elena opened it to find Damien looking handsome in a black tuxedo. He smiled and handed her a small bunch of white lilies. You look beautiful, he said softly. Thank you, Elena replied, blushing. I just hope I don't embarrass myself. I still don't know much about art. Damien smiled kindly. Vivian always said the only wrong way to look at art is to pretend you know it all. Just be yourself, Elena. During the car ride, they talked and laughed. But Elena noticed Damien getting quieter as they neared the gallery. When they arrived, many people were already there, dressed nicely and talking among the artwork. Most of these people knew Vivian, Damien whispered, placing his hand gently on Elena's back. This show isn't just a charity event. It's a celebration of her life. That must be hard, Elena said. It is, Damien replied. But for the first time, I don't feel completely lost. They stopped in front of a big, colorful painting. Damien talked about the artist and how Vivian had loved his work. Elena saw how happy he looked when talking about art. As the night went on, Damien introduced Elena to artists and curators. Elena was surprised to find herself asking questions and really enjoying the stories behind the art. You have a natural eye, said an older artist. Vivian had that too, the gift to see what others don't. The kind words made Alina feel nervous. Damien stood a little stiller, and Alina wondered if she was taking Vivian's place. Damien must have noticed. He led her to a quiet part of the gallery. On the wall was a plaque with Vivian's name. There were photos of her smiling, teaching art, and standing with Damien. She was amazing, Alina said softly. Yes, Damien said, his voice breaking. And you know what? She would have loved you. Your kindness, your honesty, those were things she always valued. Elena felt tears in her eyes. Damien, she started. Don't say sorry, he said gently. Don't feel bad for being important to me. Vivian taught me love doesn't get smaller when shared, it gets bigger. At that moment, Alina understood. She wasn't replacing Vivian. She was helping start a new chapter in Damien's life, one that still honored the past but looked forward to the future. The rest of the night felt like a dream. Elena met more people, learned more about art, and began to understand Damien even more. He wasn't just a sad man anymore. He was someone ready to live again, and she was ready to be part of that life. After the show, Damien took her home. On the way, they stopped at a little cafe and shared a piece of apple pie, talking about everything they had seen. Thank you for coming with me, Damien said as they reached her apartment. You helped me turn a sad night into something hopeful. Elena smiled. Thank you for letting me be part of it. She leaned in to kiss his cheek, but Damien turned slightly and their lips met in a soft kiss. It was short, but full of promise. Good night, Elena, he whispered, waiting until she was safely inside before he left. That night in bed, Elena thought about how her life had changed. 2 weeks ago, she was just a waitress who helped a stranger. Now she was part of a new story, one about loss, love, and starting again. In the days after the art show, Elena's life felt different. She still worked at the Sunshine Diner and studied nursing, but now she and Damien sent messages every day. They shared little things, funny thoughts, and pictures of coffee that reminded them of their first meeting. One busy afternoon, while Elena was serving tables, she noticed an elegant older woman watching her. The woman had gray hair and looked very proper. You must be Elena, the lady said. I'm Lila Calloway, Damien's mother. Elena's heart jumped. She hadn't expected to meet Damien's mom like this, especially not while wearing her stained work uniform. Mrs. Calloway, Elena said nervously. It's nice to meet you. Please, sit for a moment, Lila said kindly. We need to talk. Elena looked at her boss, Rosa, who gave her a nod. Elena sat down across from Lila, her heart still racing. Damien told me how you saved him, Lila said, and about Vivian's art show. I'm not trying to replace Vivian, Elena said quickly. Please call me Lila, the woman said gently. Vivian was like a daughter to me. Losing her broke my heart, and watching Damien stay sad for 2 years has been hard, but something's changed. He's smiling again. He's talking about the future. That's because of you. I'm afraid, Elena admitted, afraid I'm not good enough, that I don't belong in Damien's world. Lila reached across the table and held Elena's hand. Sweetheart, no one can replace anyone, but our hearts can love again. You don't need to be Vivian. You just need to be you. Tears filled Elena's eyes. Elena was scared. She told Lila she was afraid she wasn't good enough. She felt like she didn't belong in Damien's world. Lila gave her a kind smile. Elena, she said, Damien's world changed the moment you met him. You brought him back to real life. Not the life of fancy meetings and boring parties, but a life full of love and joy. Just then, Rosa came over and quietly said that some customers needed help. Lila understood it was time to go. Before I leave, she said, reaching into her bag, I want you to have this. She gave Elena a photo in a pretty frame. It showed Vivian smiling happily in front of an art gallery. Vivian believed the most beautiful art is made by caring for others, Lila said softly, and you, Elena, are proof of that. Elena's hands shook as she took the photo. She felt so touched and honored. And one more thing, Lila said as she stood up. Damien is planning a charity dinner next weekend. We would all love for you to come with him as his special guest. After Lila left, Alina felt thoughtful for the rest of her workday. The photo of Vivian in her pocket felt warm, like it was reminding her how big this step was, joining Damien's life. That night, back in her apartment, Alina looked at the photo again. Just then, a message popped up on her phone. It was from Damien. "My mom told me she visited you today. I hope she didn't scare you." Elena smiled and wrote back, "She gave me a lot to think about and a photo of Vivian." Damien replied after a few minutes, "She gave you the photo from the day Vivian opened her first art gallery. It was her happiest day. She was beautiful." Elena wrote back, "Yes, she was." Damien answered, "And she would have loved to see how you're changing my life now." Elena looked at Vivian's smiling face in the photo again. Then she typed, "About the charity dinner. Please say you'll come." Damien quickly replied, "Not as my hero or a waitress, but as the amazing woman who's teaching me how to live again." Her heart beat fast. She typed back, "Yes, I will." That night, Alina lay in bed, staring at Vivian's photo on her table. It wasn't just a picture from the past, it was a reminder that love comes in many ways, and the most beautiful stories can start in the strangest places. For the first time, Elena didn't feel like she was just visiting Damien's life. She felt like she was becoming part of it. The day of the charity dinner finally came. Elena felt excited and a little nervous. She had spent her savings to buy a pretty navy blue dress. It made her feel nice without being too fancy. Rosa had helped her choose it while shopping. "You're showing people tonight that love can grow anywhere," Rosa said, fixing the dress, "even between two very different people." Now, Elena stood in front of her mirror, trying to calm her shaking hands. She wore earrings that Rosa had lent her. The dinner was at a super fancy hotel called the Four Seasons. It was nothing like the Sunshine Diner where she worked. The photo of Vivian sat on her shelf, smiling like she was cheering Elena on. At exactly 7 p.m., the doorbell rang. Elena opened it and saw Damien looking handsome in a tuxedo. He held a small bunch of white flowers. "You look beautiful," Damien said, his eyes sparkling. "You don't look too bad either," Elena said shyly, taking the flowers. "They're orchids," Damien told her. "Vivian's favorites, and now I think they match you perfectly too." On the way to the hotel, Damien explained more about the event. "This dinner raises money to help kids in schools learn about art," he said. "Vivian loved that idea, and this is one way to remember her." Elena held his hand. "It's a wonderful cause." The hotel ballroom looked like something out of a dream. Tables were decorated with flowers and sparkling lights. Paintings were set up around the room for an art auction. Lila greeted them at the door with a warm hug. "Welcome to the family," she whispered to Elena, making her eyes fill with happy tears. All night, Elena met many important people from the art and business world. She was surprised to find that her time as a waitress had helped her a lot. She knew how to talk kindly to people, and everyone liked her honesty and warm smile. At dinner, Elena sat between Damien and a famous art expert. She noticed a group of people looking at one painting with deep interest. Damien followed her eyes and said softly, "That was Vivian's last painting. She found it in a small gallery and loved it. She said art didn't need a famous name, it just needed to touch the heart." Elena looked closely. The painting showed a cafe near the sea where lonely people found new friendships. It felt like her own story. Then Damien was called to the stage to speak. Elena watched proudly as he talked about Vivian, art, and how it could change lives. "Tonight," Damien said, looking at Elena, "we're not just honoring Vivian's memory, we're showing that art can bring people together, and sometimes the most unexpected changes save us." After the speech during the auction, Elena was amazed. Paintings sold for more money than she made in a year. Damien whispered to her that all the money would help kids in poor schools learn art. Later, Damien took Elena to a quiet terrace. The night air was cool and the city lights sparkled below. Elena, he said, holding her hand, I'm not trying to replace what I had with Vivian. What you and I have is something brand new and just as special. Elena's heart beat fast. Sometimes I wonder if I belong in your world, she said quietly. My world? Damien smiled and touched her cheek. My world changed the moment you walked into that restaurant. You showed me what real life is. Love, laughter, and caring. Under the stars, Elena finally understood. She didn't have to be anyone else. She was enough, just as she was. Damien, she whispered, I think I'm falling in love with you. Damien gently pulled her into his arms. And I'm already in love with you, Elena Navarro. Their kiss was different this time, full of promise and hope. When they went back into the ballroom, people looked at them kindly. There were no stares, no gossip, only quiet smiles that said, We see your love. The night was a big success. On the way home, Damien gave Elena a gift. It was a small version of the cafe painting. I bought it for you, he said, smiling, to remind you that the best moments often happen over a cup of coffee. That night, Elena placed the painting beside Vivian's photo on her table. Two women, two stories, both filled with love, and one man who had learned that love only grows when shared. A week later, Elena stood at the Sunshine Diner feeling different inside. In the mornings, she still served coffee with a smile. But now she also went to art shows and fancy dinners. And she had Damien. Rosa noticed the change first. You look different, she said one Thursday morning. It's not just the sparkle in your eyes, it's like you found where you belong. It's funny, Elena said, putting out the menus. I feel like I'm living two lives. Here I'm just Elena, serving pancakes, but with Damien. With Damien, Rosa said gently, you're still the same Elena, and that's why he loves you, not for who you could be, but for who you already are. The first customers came in, but Rosa's words stayed in Elena's heart. Later that morning, Elena got a message from Damien. I have a surprise for you. Can I pick you up after work? Elena smiled. Sure, I'm done at 3. At 3, Damien arrived, dressed in jeans and a blue shirt. Where are we going? Elena asked after changing. You showed me your world, Damien said with a grin. Now I want to show you mine. They drove out of the city to a quiet neighborhood. Damien stopped in front of a small, neat house. This was my first home, he said, where everything began. Elena was surprised. It looked simple, not fancy like his big apartment. I almost sold it after Vivian died, Damien said, but I couldn't. This house is where we dreamed and worked hard. Inside, the house felt warm and full of memories. Pictures showed a young Damien in a garage-turned-office. Others showed Vivian starting her own little gallery. This was our first business, Damien said. She sold art at fairs. I worked on software. We were poor, but we had big dreams. Elena touched a photo of them holding a sold sign. You look so happy. We were, Damien smiled. But Vivian always said that real happiness is in the journey, not the destination. In the basement, now a small museum, Damien showed Elena Vivian's first paintings and newspaper stories about their work. Why are you showing me all this? Elena asked softly. Damien held her hands and looked into her eyes. Because I want you to understand, he said kindly. I'm not just the big boss you met at the restaurant. I'm someone who started with nothing. I know how important hard work and dreams are, and I want you to know that your world, the world where people work hard for their dreams, is my world too. Elena felt tears coming to her eyes. Damien, He gently stopped her and led her to a small table in the basement. On the table was an envelope. What's this? Elena asked, picking it up with shaking hands. Open it, Damien said. Inside the envelope were papers. They were for a full scholarship to a nursing school. It was in the name of Vivian Calloway. I can't accept this, Elena whispered, feeling very touched. You can and you should, Damien said gently. Vivian always wanted to help people follow their dreams. This scholarship is her way of helping someone. Someone like you who brings new hope to my life. Elena looked around the basement. There were many special things that showed a life full of love and hard work. Her tears now fell freely. "Thank you," she said, hugging Damien, "not just for the gift, but for sharing all this with me." Damien kissed her softly, and Alina felt something change between them. This wasn't just a story about a waitress and a rich man. It was about two different worlds meeting and realizing they were not so different. When they left the house that afternoon, Alina carried more than just the papers in her bag. She carried a deeper understanding of the man she was starting to love. Damien Calloway wasn't just the rich man she had helped. He was someone who, like her, believed in hard work, dreams, and real love. And maybe, Alina thought as she looked at the sunset over Boston, that was why they met that morning at the Sunshine Diner. Autumn in Boston was ending. Elena felt like her life had changed completely over the last few months. The Sunshine Diner was still her safe place. But now, she also had nursing school, thanks to the Vivian Calloway Scholarship, and she had more and more time with Damien. One busy morning at the diner, Alina was serving coffee when she noticed a fancy-looking woman watching her. At first, Elena didn't think much about it, but something about the way the woman stood caught her eye. She looked familiar. "You must be Elena," the woman said, walking over. "I'm Isla Bennett, Vivian's sister." Elena's heart skipped a beat. She had learned a lot about Vivian from Damien, but she had never met her sister. "Please sit with me," Isla said kindly. "I have something to share with you." Elena looked at Rosa, who nodded to let her go. She sat at the table. "Damien doesn't know I'm here," Isla began, taking an envelope from her bag. "Vivian left this to give to the person who could make Damien smile again. A real smile." Elena looked at the envelope, unsure. "I don't know if I should." "Vivian was more than my sister," Isla said, not letting Elena finish. "She was my best friend. In her last days, she made me promise to help Damien find true happiness again, not just getting by. Real happiness." With shaking hands, Elena opened the envelope. Inside was a letter written by hand in a small key. "Dear stranger," the letter began. "If you're reading this, it means you've done something I hoped someone would do. You've brought joy back into Damien's life. I don't know who you are, but you must be special. Damien has a big heart, but he's scared to open it again. If you helped him do that, then you are exactly who I hoped for." Elena had tears in her eyes as she read. "The key with this letter opens a small box in a bank vault. Inside are drawings and notes for my last dream, a community art gallery. I dreamed of a place where people could heal through art and share their stories. Damien knows about it, but he never had the courage to do it. Maybe you can help him." Isla watched Elena closely. "Vivian always saw the special in everyday people," she said gently. "Just like you, Elena." "But why me?" Elena asked quietly. "I'm just—" "The woman who saved Damien's life twice," Isla interrupted. "Once on the street and once with your heart. Don't think you're not important. Vivian would have loved your realness." Elena read the letter again. At the end, Vivian had written, "Don't be afraid to love Damien fully. He deserves it, and you do too. Love doesn't get smaller when it's shared. It grows." "Damien is different now," Isla said. "At the last foundation meeting, he even made jokes. He hasn't done that since Vivian died. That's because of you." "Sometimes I feel like this is all a dream," Elena said. "Like I'll wake up and go back to being just a waitress." "That's what makes you perfect for Damien," Isla smiled. "Your heart, your honesty. Vivian always said that true art lives in simple, real connections." Elena carefully put the letter and key into her apron. "What should I do now?" she asked. "Be yourself," Isla said, standing up. "Keep being the one who brought Damien back to life, and when the time is right, help make Vivian's last dream come true with your love." After Ella left, Elena worked the rest of her shift deep in thought. Every coffee she served, every smile she gave the customers felt more meaningful. She wasn't just Elena the waitress anymore. She was the one who could help finish Vivian's dream, the one who had brought joy back to Damien Calloway. That night, in her small apartment, Elena read Vivian's letter over and over. On her wall, the painting Damien had given her of the seaside cafe seemed to glow. Next to it was a photo of Vivian. Two women, both special in Damien's life, and both believing in the beauty of simple things. Elena picked up her phone and sent Damien a message. "Can we meet tomorrow? There's something important I need to share with you." The reply came quickly. "Of course. Is everything all right?" "Yes," she wrote, smiling at Vivian's photo. "It's more than fine. It's perfect." The next morning was sunny. Elena waited for Damien in the Boston Public Garden. She had chosen this peaceful place with beautiful art around to share Vivian's letter. The key in her pocket felt heavy. Damien arrived right on time at 10. His smile when he saw her was warm and full of love. He kissed her softly and sat next to her. "So what's the big mystery?" he asked. "Your message kept me wondering all night." Elena took a deep breath. "Yesterday I had a special visitor at the diner," she began. "Isla Bennett came to see me." Damien looked surprised. "Isla? She didn't tell me." "She gave me something," Elena continued, taking out the envelope. "Vivian left this." Damien didn't move. He stared at the envelope in Elena's hands. The wind moved the tree leaves gently above them. "Vivian left a letter," Elena said softly, "for the person who could make you smile again. Isla said it was time." With shaking hands, Damien took the envelope. Elena sat quietly while he read Vivian's words. She saw his face change, surprise, sadness, love, and finally a tearful smile. "The community gallery project," he said quietly. "It was her dream. She worked on it when she felt strong enough. She wanted to heal people through art." Elena pulled out the key. She left everything ready in the bank vault. The plans, the notes. She wanted it to happen, and she wanted the person who brought you back to help. Damien took the key, his fingers brushing Elena's. "You've already done so much," he said. "You saved my life twice, once on the street and once when you showed me I could still love." "Vivian knew," Elena said gently. "She knew you needed someone who understood simple joys, someone who sees beauty in small things, like a waitress who listens while serving coffee." Damien smiled, remembering their first date. "I want to help make her dream real," Elena said. "Not just for Vivian, but for everyone who needs healing through art." Damien pulled her close and kissed her forehead. "You know what's amazing? Vivian always said true art lives in real connections. And here you are, showing that she was right." They spent hours walking in the garden, talking about the art gallery. Damien shared happy memories of Vivian without the pain. Elena talked about her time at the diner and how every person there had a story to tell. "We could have a cafe inside the gallery," Elena suggested. "A place where people feel safe to share their stories, like at Sunshine." "She would have loved that," Damien smiled. "She always said the best talks happen over coffee." As the sun set, they sat again on the same bench. The envelope with Vivian's letter was between them, no longer something from the past, but a gift for the future. "Elena," Damien said, his voice full of feeling, "you haven't just brought me back to life. You're helping me make Vivian's last dream come true. And you're doing it your own way, with kindness, honesty, and love." "Sometimes I wonder if Vivian knew," Elena said quietly, "if she knew someone like me would help finish her dream." "There's nothing simple about you, Elena Navarro," Damien said firmly. "You are very special just because of who you are," Damien said. "That's why both Vivian and I love you. I love you in person, but Vivian loved you because of the way you changed my life." Elena felt her heart grow warm and full when she heard these words. It felt like everything in her life was coming together. She was a waitress, a nursing student, a woman in love, and now someone who would help keep Vivian's dream alive. "Tomorrow we can go to the old building," Damien said gently as he put the letter away. "We can start making that dream come true." Elena nodded. She felt both excited and a little nervous. "Vivian gave us a very special gift," she said, "the chance to make something meaningful together." As they walked back to their car, holding hands, Elena thought about how surprising life could be. Just being kind and serving coffee to a sad stranger had become a love story that connected the past and the present in a beautiful way. The sun was setting over Boston, making the sky turn pink and gold. The colors looked like a painting, just like the ones that would soon hang in the new art gallery. Elena smiled. Maybe this was the real miracle, how love, in all its different ways, could turn sadness into something beautiful. A whole year had passed since Elena found Vivian's letter. The old warehouse in South Boston had been changed into something amazing. It was now the Vivian Calloway Community Gallery, a place full of art and love. Elena walked through the big room, making sure everything was ready before the big opening. The white walls were covered with art made by local people. Each painting and drawing told a story about being strong and having hope. In the middle of the gallery was a small cafe called Sunshine Corner. It was warm and friendly, just like the place where Elena and Damien had first met. "Everything looks perfect," Damien said, walking up behind her and putting his arms around her. "Vivian would have loved every part of this," Elena smiled. "Especially the coffee," she joked as they watched Rosa set up the last things at the counter. Rosa, the old manager of the Sunshine Diner, had said yes when they asked her to run the cafe at the gallery. She brought the same warm feeling that she always had. People loved her coffee and her kind smile. "You really made Vivian's dream come true," said Lila Calloway, Vivian's sister, as she walked over to them. "This is a place where real people can see the beauty in their own stories." The gallery was more than just a place for art. During the day, it was a community center with free art therapy classes. At night, it was a fun place for new artists and art lovers to meet and share their work. "I remember the day I found you crying at that table in the diner," Elena said softly to Damien. "Who would have thought that moment would bring us here?" Damien kissed her on the forehead. "Vivian always knew it would be someone like you," he said. "Someone who sees beauty in simple things. Someone who would make her last dream come true." Isla Bennett came over carrying a small box. "We found some of Vivian's old things in the attic," she said, "and we found this." She pulled out a small painting. It was a watercolor picture of a cafe by the sea. It looked just like the painting Damien had given Elena at the charity dinner. "This was her first idea for the project," Isla said. "Vivian always said the best stories start with a cup of coffee and an open heart." Elena felt tears in her eyes as she held the painting. It felt like Vivian was right there with them, giving her love and blessings, not just to the gallery, but to the love that had grown from sadness. Soon guests started to arrive for the big opening. Artists, neighbors, and even people from the art therapy classes came. Everyone had their own story, and now they were all part of the big story of the gallery. When it was time for the speech, Damien held Elena's hand and spoke to everyone. "This place," he said, "is a celebration of love. Vivian's love for art and people, the surprising love I found when I didn't expect it, and the love that each of you shares through your art." Elena looked at him with pride. Damien had changed so much since the first day they met. He wasn't just a sad CEO anymore. Now, he was someone who had learned how big the heart can be and how it can love again. Rosa came by with a tray of coffee. She gave cups to Elena and Damien first. "Some things never change," she smiled. "Coffee is still the best way to start a new story." Later, Elena went to the quiet winter garden they had made at the back of the gallery. It was a peaceful place with plants and little pieces of art. Damien found her there and brought 2 cups of coffee. "A penny for your thoughts?" he asked as he gave her a cup. "I was just thinking about how surprising life can be," Elena said. "How one small act of kindness can change everything." "You changed my life twice," Damien said. "First when you saved me from that car, and then when you helped me find myself again." Elena gently touched his face. "And you changed my life too," she said. You showed me that fairy tales can start with a cup of coffee and a broken heart. Damien smiled, his eyes shining. Vivian was right about everything, he said. She was right about how art can heal, how love can change everything, and how angels sometimes wear waitress aprons. The opening party went on into the night, but Elena and Damien stayed in the winter garden for a little longer, enjoying their coffee and the quiet. On the wall nearby, Vivian's painting of the cafe by the sea glowed softly in the light. You know, Elena said finally, I think I understand now why Vivian left that letter. She knew that true love doesn't mean forgetting the past, it means making something new and just as special. Damien nodded and hugged her closer. That's why this place is perfect, he said. It's a mix of the old and the new, a mix of loss and fresh starts, of coffee and art. When they went back to the party, Elena stopped for a moment and looked at the happy space. Sunshine Corner was full of people, with Rosa serving coffee and smiling. The gallery walls were filled with stories, and every artwork showed how strong and beautiful people can be. And in the middle of it all was love. Vivian's love for art and her community, Damien's love that had grown again, and Elena's love that began with a cup of coffee and one kind moment. The Vivian Calloway Community Gallery wasn't just a place for art. It was a place that showed how love, in many forms, can change the world. And so, with coffee in their hands and love in their hearts, Elena and Damien started the next chapter of their story, knowing that some endings are really just the beginning of something even more beautiful. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Check out our other videos too. See you in the next one.